Alright, welcome to another figure updates video. Alright, it has been 2 weeks since the last time I did one of these videos, and to be frank, there isn't that much things that I'm personally, that excited about. So it's been 2 weeks. So let's just jump into it. So I just dropped the Loid Forger Finex unboxing review kind of video. So if you guys want to check that out, I think you guys would be surprised about my opinions on it. Yeah, so just go ahead and check out that video. There's also a blog post if you guys just want to like skim through the blog post instead. I always post a ton of pictures, so go ahead and check that out. So there's a ton of animes that I've been watching for the past like 2-3 weeks, and I finally caught up with season 4 Adan Machi, and I think I talked about this on stream when I was streaming about Ryu Leon, and I was always confused by, okay, why are they making a scale figure of Ryu Leon? And now I understand why. Now I kind of want this figure. So that's just kind of how it worked out. Not something that I'm going to pre-order or anything like that. It's coming supposedly by the end of the year in December. So this is something I'm going to keep my eyes on. Hopefully, yeah, I might be able to catch this like later on in the year or maybe early next year. But yeah, I became a big fan, and season 4, it was such a big redemption like season for me. And I'm glad that it was actually really good, and it kept more towards the shonen elements because that is what made that anime good. So yeah, Ryu Leon, I like the figure. And then there's the one, I think there was the limited one that came with like the mask. What would they call her? They call her what? The Gale Wind? Is that what they called her? Either way, big fan of the character. And it changed my mind about Belle Cornell as well. So just wanted to mention that. And for the next figure, there's actually a Boruto figure that looks decent. So most of Boruto figures is just like prize figures. Most of the stuff, if you look at his list of figures, he doesn't really have much of anything at all. Like all the really small like Funko Pops, maybe some like little prize figures here and there. But at the end of the day, he's a boy character, and Boruto isn't like that popular like that, right? They're also coming out with the Naruto Figuarts 02. I don't think a lot of people really like the older Naruto like this. It's actually a really cool concept right here, but I just don't really care too much about this Naruto. I think most people are probably in the same boat, but it's an interesting one. If I can somehow get a really great deal on this Naruto one, that might be something I buy. But I just thought I'd mention that. And also that Boruto right here. I'm glad that Figuarts Zero did make them. It looks really cool. It's probably not going to be that big, unfortunately. Ooh, 8 inches. You know what? That's pretty tall, at least. The base, I'm not too sure why they kind of... Well, I guess they kind of make it like a combo base right here. And then Boruto, he has his own kind of special Rasengan. So I think this kind of represents that right here. So that it's just a really cool figure overall. For Boruto, and of course he has Naruto's like kid jacket on, which is kind of cool. It looks like right here his face, they did his face pretty well, but if you just look at the hair, you guys can see the hair. The hair is not that great, but it's Figuarts Zero, right? Figuarts Zero, it's smaller and it's more about like the overall dynamic pose with a lot of effect, and I really like how I really love the face. The hair, meh. It's cool that they picked the Rasengan, and it's cool that, Naruto is there with him right here too. So, I mean, it's nice to see a little bit of love for other animes that are not that popular, or other characters that are not that popular. It's a very mixed bag when people talk about Boruto. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people like it at the same time. There's just a wide variety of spectrums when it comes to Boruto. How I kind of think of Boruto, he's very underrated. But then again, I haven't been able to really watch the anime or anything. Like, I just don't really care. I've been reading it. I like the manga, but watching it, it was really hard to watch it. So that's pretty much where I stand with Boruto. And for the next, like, 3 figures, so Finex, right? How we feel about Finex is very mixed as well. And like I said with the Loid Forger video, I think people will slightly change their minds to have slightly more positive opinion on them, especially for that specific figure. So I'm hoping that for Jigokuraku or Hell's Paradise, There's 3 scales that I seen that popped up. So you have Yamada, Asaemon, Sagiri. So she's like one of the main characters. So there's no images yet of her, which is at this point there's only like 3 episodes in. And then you had Gabimaru. So you had Gabimaru, which is like the main protagonist. He's kind of like that shonen-ish kind of character. But you know, Jigokuraku is very dark. It's very gory. Man, I was trying to write a blog about Jigokuraku. It's just the motivations are way too simple for me, so it's really about like the animation style, and you know, it's like more typical samurai stuff with that typical gore. There's a lot of beheadings. You'll see like a lot of blood, a lot of people chopping off hands and stuff like that. So that is basically what you're gonna get out of Jigokuraku. But here though, guys, Sagiri and Gabimaru are the main characters as far as I can tell. And then you have Yuzuriha, which is it's kind of like a spoiler that the fact that they're making a scale figure of her. When you watch something, like, you don't really catch wind of a lot of names that are kind of like, they look like to be side characters, but it looks like she's a very, very important character, which I hope to see some really cool scenes for her, because if they're going to make a scale of her, that means she's about to do a bunch of badass stuff. So no pictures yet. Just hoping Finex do somewhat decent job, and I hope it's not like overpriced or anything, or it's like more bearable, right? So yeah, Jigokuraku, Hell's Paradise, a fun anime, but nothing like too deep at all. Very, very simple motivations from the characters. It's just a fun watch. And the next figure right here, this is the re-release of the Aqua and Megamean figure. So I didn't pull up really the Megamean figure, but right here you have Aqua and Megumin from Kadokawa, and apparently this one's very, very popular for them to bring back. This was out in 2019, so this one is going to be re-released in December of 2023, so at the end of the year as well, like the Ryu Leon figure. So how I feel about this Aqua figure is pretty much this: I like it, but I don't love it, and I feel like a lot of other people, they love it more than I like it, you know? So when it comes to Aqua, guys, I like the fact that I just want characters in like their original kind of like outfits. Like, I don't want them in dresses. I don't want like all this extra stuff with the characters, which we're going to get to the Finex Megamean a little bit later. But when it just comes to characters, like, I basically just want them in their original look, right? How they look like 99% of the time in the anime, that's pretty much what I want out of them. So that is what this figure gives you. And they kind of give you, I mean, Aqua, right? I mean, the base is great. I love the water. I love that aspect of it. I love her hair. How she's painting stuff is very simplistic. There's not as much shading. It's not that dynamic of a look of a character, right? She's very simple looking, but I just don't like her face as much. And if you look at a lot of people's pictures of her face is kind of like, it's like poofy, right? She has a poofy face look. But I don't know, man. Like, this picture is really good. A lot of the prototype pictures, I mean, that angle of her, this angle of her right here, which happens to be the more grainy looking picture, that looks like her. I'm not too sure how they kind of sculpted her mouth. Is kind of weird. It's hard to kind of make it look as natural as possible, especially like in pictures, when it comes to like taking pictures of the mouth and nose area. But there's just certain angles of her that I just don't like. It just makes her face look very, very poofy. This one looks decent right here. I like this one. This one right here, this is just a normal picture outside of the box. So this is how I feel like how she truly looks like most of the time. I love how they did the hair, how they sculpted the hair. Just look at this and compare it to like the Boruto hair, right? But right now, I just don't fully buy into the Aqua face. Like, I want Aqua to look more like this, right? A lot of the pictures of Aqua, it's just, when I look at Aqua, I just look at Aqua more like this face. Like, there are some parts in the anime where she does look like she has like a little bit more poofier face. She makes a lot of different face expressions, so it's hard to pinpoint what Aqua looks like a lot of the time. But I'll just leave it at this: I like it, I just don't I'm not completely sold and love it. And there's not that many figures of Aqua. And honestly, if I boiled down to all of her figures, I probably would just get like the bunny one, the original bunny one, not the bare leg one. That's the only one that I really actually like that, I'm willing. Okay, I'll pay $300 for this figure and feel good about it. But for this Kadokawa one, I mean, she's only about like 20k yen. Yeah, so Aqua is only about like a little bit under 22k yen, which with tax and shipping and everything is gonna put you around maybe close to 200 bucks, maybe a little bit over 200 bucks if you're from the US at least. So I mean, that sounds like a pretty good price. That's pretty much standard for what I've seen from Kadokawa and 1/7 scales in general. So this is one that's on my list that like I like this one the most, but I just don't love it. So I'm probably gonna end up sitting on this for quite some time. There was the Aqua, the racing one. I just don't really like her face on this one either. I definitely like the face more on the other re-release. So when it comes down to it, it looks like this one is going to be the winner unless something new actually comes out for Aqua. So the only thing that's really new is the pop-up parade. They're making a pop-up parade bunny version large size. So I kind of like this one actually. So I'm just waiting for it to be painted in. If anything, I might just settle for this one right here because I do like this face maybe a little bit more than I do of the Kadokawa one. So we'll see. But other than that, guys, the only really big figure that I'm like somewhat excited for is from Phoenix, but it is Megamean. So if you look at Megamean figures, there's so many. I just watched like Konosuba earlier in the year. Loved it all. Watched the movie too, which is very important. I talked to someone, I was like, they never watched the movie. I was like, the movie is it's pretty canon. It's pretty important too. So yeah, it ended on a pretty good note as well. But Megamean is just so damn popular, and she has so many cool looking figures. And the one that I most want to get, it's already came out, and it's the E-Stream one. It's the E-Stream Shibuya Scramble figure one, because in that one she does the explosion, right? And so this one is like the same thing, right? But they put her in a different outfit. And I feel like they put her in a dress because it'd be too close to the E-Stream one. So you're basically will be competing head to head with the E-Stream. So this one kind of gives you something a little bit different. And this one gives you the eye patch, right? You get the eye patch, and I think you get to remove the eye patch. Yep. Which is pretty damn cool. And then you got the little cat. If you guys been watching the kind of side story that just came out of Megumin, it's a fun, very slice of life anime. Nothing like too big to really like talk about. It's just slice of life, funny. It has a certain kind of slice of life charm. But I like this figure, and there's a picture right here. This picture right here, you have the E-Stream one on the left, and then you have the Phoenix one on the right. And if you want to stay as true as possible to what Megumin generally looks like with her, crimson cape and all that stuff, like the E-Stream one for me is still the one to go. But the Phoenix one isn't too bad either. So on Ami Ami, she's about 32,000 yen, so that puts you at 240 with tax and everything. And then shipping, you're gonna be put more towards possibly like 300 bucks, maybe even more depending on where you're buying it from. So let's just assume it's about 300 bucks and round it up there. That's actually a good price for the figure. For a 1/7 scale with as much effects that they put here, 300 bucks is like where I would think that I would pay for this figure. Anything less than that, I think it starts to become more true value there. But like max of what I want to pay, 300 bucks, that sounds pretty good. And if I'm being real here with the Megamean figure, it's kind of hard to know for sure until we get these figures in hand and take all types of pictures with it. The dress itself, even though I don't think it's like canon or anything, or you guys can correct me about why they did the dress. But in my point of view, in terms of just putting that aside and just looking at the figure for what it is, just the pictures themselves, I liked how they did her hair sculpt. I like her face expression, and I like the eye patch. And you go beyond that, and then you look at her dress. I like the fact that the dress is very flowy. It's almost like she looks like kind of like a vampire or something right here, right? Yeah. Another thing to kind of point out, you see how she is kind of on one leg. That means she's only on one little peg right here. And earlier, I just looked at an Aqua figure, the Oiron one, and then they actually put a stand behind her to kind of help her up. That kind of changes the aesthetics a little bit. So I'm pretty interested to know if they're probably gonna put a stand somewhere behind her to kind of help her up. That's probably my only, that's like one of my big concerns here as well. The more dynamic the figure, the more that she's kind of like bent one way, which she is. You see her leg right here at the very bottom. That kind of throws off the equilibrium of the figure a little bit. So she's probably eventually over time going to kind of fall towards, you know, the right side, on our right side, which would be on the left side of the figure. But I really like the concept. The Extreme one, they're able to make the kind of light reflection come off the flames like a lot cooler. On the Phoenix one, it looks a little bit more dull, so I wonder how that actually comes out in like real life. So the effects on Extreme looks better, but the figure on the Phoenix one, like the overall character, the face and everything, and how they kind of made her dress, I actually kind of like that aesthetic a little bit more, just the figure itself. But if I'm being true to what I said earlier, I want a character that looks like what she looks like 99% of the time. I want to go with the Extreme one. But of course, for 300 bucks, that is something that I'm going to be sitting on. Like, definitely not going to pre-order this or anything like that. Just wait for this to come out. Most Phoenix figures, like, will be able to get it on release day. At least that is what I believe. Most of the things I've seen from Extreme and FuRyu, when they come out, you have ample time to kind of make your decision after the fact. But that's just my opinion. If you guys lose out on it, don't blame me. But yeah, there's just so many, there's really, really great angles that they took of this figure. I like it. But the proof will always be after the fact, after it's manufactured. But this one, for what it's worth, it looks good. And it looks like you'll be getting your money's worth out of this figure. But yeah, guys, other than that, man, there's a ton of other stuff that came out, but, you know, I'm not really in a position to really talk about it. Like, there's a lot of Love Live, there's Guilty Gear, there's a lot of these other figures. Just another thing that I want to just mention is there's a big run right now. And starting like at the, like last year, there's a big run of League of Legends figures. Now, I haven't played League of Legends in years, so a lot of these characters, like, I just don't know. I don't know any of them. I only know pretty much the OG characters and maybe like 3 years after that. So, I mean, for Teemo right here, Teemo, there's like just a resin figure of Teemo, a 1/4 scale Teemo. That's cute. But other than that, guys, if you guys are into League of Legends, there's a ton of them that's coming out right now. But yeah, guys, the past like 2 weeks, figures, there hasn't been that much big of news. I think after that day where it was like the Makima and all these other figures that came out all in the same day, that was a pretty exciting week. But other than that, usually these figures, you know, from week to week, they could be kind of slow, kind of boring. Just waiting for a lot of figures to be painted in. Hopefully by summer, by the next Wonder Festival, there's probably going to be a crap ton of update. I'm pretty interested to see how that Megamean figure comes out. The Aqua one, I'm just kind of sitting and just waiting to be convinced by one that I have to buy a figure from Aqua. But none of her figures I feel like I need to go after. The Boruto one is interesting, and the Jigokuraku, like, I'm hoping that those scales, when they release, maybe they just skip the whole kind of, you know, scope process and just go straight to the prototype pictures with it painted in. Hopefully that happens. But yeah, I just hope like a lot of these things kind of come out to be, you know, good. And we want to be convinced to buy these things, right? And it's up to them to kind of confirm it or not, right? So I try to stay optimistic with these things, you know. But yeah, guys, just let me know what you think about these figures. And, you know, it's your boy, Otaka-san. This is a figure updates video. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, check out my blog, check out my anime channel. I appreciate you guys once again, and I'll see you guys on the next video.